My Republican colleagues falsely claim that allowing transgender women and girls to play sports is harmful to cisgender women and girls. They continue to hurl insulting lies about transgender girls dominating sports.
A few moments later.
That you are now requiring applicants to be able to do a certain kind of pull-ups, which a lot of women cannot because of physiological differences.
The debate over men and women's sports is over, and guess what? Our side won. And the reason we won is because the vast majority of Americans recognize the strength difference between men and women. However, you still have a few people, like Don Lemon apparently, who don't understand this. And that's what we're going to see being discussed over today with Piers Morgan. But before we begin, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
You know, I would argue that one of the reasons Trump got re-elected against all the odds, if you think about what happened after January 6th and everything else, the fact that he got re-elected, I always felt was three-pronged, right? One was immigration. I think Biden completely dropped the ball with immigration, particularly on the southern border. Second, the economy. And thirdly, the whole woke issue, the whole woke culture. And in particular, I would say, the issue, for example, of trans athletes in women's sport, which is, to me, if you're talking about facts, it is something that most Americans looked at and went, you know what, this is ridiculous. How can you deny biological reality? How can you go against scientific fact? So many would argue that it was the Democrats who lost track of facts and moved into a slightly strange, surreal place where they were trying to deny stuff which most Americans went, well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Look, I would not qualify it the way that you're qualifying it. I do believe that you have a point about the Democratic Party not understanding the moment that we're in, that America's in right now. As far as trans athletes, I think that was, although I understand to certain people it is a big deal, it is such a minute, small percentage of the population, and the trans athletes that are actually in schools and that are competing in, you know, in competitions. It's so minor. It affects so few Americans. I'm shocked that it was used to the level that it was in the election, and to great success. And so I must commend the Republicans on an issue that wasn't really an issue for most Americans, that they made it into something that helped to catapult this president into office. Now,
but you see, I've heard a lot of Democrats using that argument, and I've said to them, you know, one of the most effective. I'm not saying you're a Democrat. I'm just saying I've heard a lot of Democrats say it, and my argument to them has been, yeah, but I don't. You know, the New York Times reported that the they/them ad that Trump put out, which gathered momentum and then became used more and more and more, was one of the most effective.
I think it was extremely successful.
It was one of the most successful modern political adverts because it cut to the point, I think, again, about common sense, that most Americans actually, you know, maybe they don't have it in their top 5 things they care about. I would absolutely accept that. But when you actually ask them, do you think this is fair? Do you think it's right? Do you think it's equal? Do you think it's good that women's rights would be eroded? They actually then do get quite exercised about it.
Look, Piers, I'm not here to argue over trans rights. I don't think it necessarily cut to the argument of common sense. I think they simply found an issue that they could capitalize on based on fear or, you know, some perceived religious value or what have you. So I'm not going to sit here and demonize trans people, trans women or trans men, because I just don't think that that is fair and that is productive in this moment. I'm not going to go back and litigate why Donald Trump won and on the issue of trans. We simply disagree on that. I think it affects so few people. I think it was something that was blown out of proportion. And while, you know, there may be some people who are affected by it, and if they are, I'm sorry that happens, but happens. But I just don't think that was an issue that focuses.
So when you see, for example, in the Paris Olympics, when you saw Imam Khalif, an Algerian boxer who had been banned from the World Championships for testing positive for male chromosomes, when you saw a young female Italian boxer quit after 40 seconds because she'd never been hit that hard and genuinely feared for her life, and Imam Khalif goes on to win gold medal at the Olympics, Does that not ring an alarm bell for you, Don? I mean, do you not think that the reason we separate sexes in the Olympics is because males have an advantage? I mean, why would you not think that's important? It's
Do you want me to
gold
tell you
medal.
the truth?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Piers, I'll tell you the truth about this. I heard about this story, but it's not something that I focus on. I'm not watching the Olympics like that. Maybe I'm different. I'm just not. I'm not that interested in watching everything. I like to watch the swimming. I like to watch the gymnasts. I'm not interested in boxing or any of that because I think it's a brutal sport anyway. So for me, it's just not that interesting. I'm sorry that anybody was hit that hard, but if you put yourself in the arena to be hit and someone hits you hard, then whose fault is that?
Well, you expect to be hit by other women, not men.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know who she expected to be hit by.
We call it
I'm
violence.
sure she saw. I'm sure whoever was in that competition understood who they were going into the ring with. And if you put yourself in that competition in the middle of a ring where punches are being thrown, then you can expect to get hit hard, whether it is a man or a woman. And that's all I have to say about that.
So you would have no objection to men fighting women in a boxing ring?
I did not say that. I just said that's all I have to say about that.
But isn't that the implication of what you're saying?
No, I've said in many different ways, that's all I have to say about that.
Right. But I'm just trying to clarify what you just said about the boxing. Are you saying it's okay for men to beat up women?
I think I've been very clear. That's all I have to say. I think I've been very clear to you. That's all I have to say about it.
I'm just a bit startled by
play the tape back if you don't understand.
No, I'm just startled by what I think I just heard, which is you seem to think it's okay for men to hit women in a boxing ring. Is that what you said? Clarify if you didn't.
I didn't say. I don't think it's okay for men to hit women anywhere.
So why would it be okay in a boxing ring?
Well, again, I didn't say it's okay in a boxing ring. I just said that's all I have to say about it. I don't think it's okay for men to hit women.
So
anywhere.
then it sounds like you agree with me that biological men should not be competing against women in a boxing ring.
Okay, where to even begin in that exchange? I guess we'll start with Piers Morgan correctly listing the reasons why the Democrats lost the 2024 election. You had, of course, immigration, the economy, and wokeness. And all three are connected to the simple idea that Democrats refused to recognize reality. Okay, with immigration, it was the wide open border, but they were all saying, oh, we have a complete secure border. We have total operational control. There is no problem. Okay, and of course, you have the economy. Oh, everything's great. Don't believe you're lying. Eyes and ears, inflation is transitory. And then, of course, you have wokeness. Yeah, men can compete against women in sports because we're all the same. There is no strength difference. But of course, you and I know the actual truth through experience and, of course, through science. As I've shown many times before, from Princeton, the absolute total body strength of women has been reported as being roughly 67% that of men. Further, the gender differences in absolute strength vary according to the areas of the body that are being compared. Okay, so yes, there is a definite strength difference. So by making any argument whatsoever that men can compete against women fairly in sports is completely false. But of course, that didn't stop Democrats and the left from going out there and saying, hey, guess what? Men deserve to be in women's bathrooms, in women's locker rooms, in women's sports, in women's prisons even. Okay? Those were some crazy arguments they were making. But of course, you have Don Lemon out there. He doesn't really care because it doesn't affect that large of a group. The amount of men in women's sports is so minuscule that it's not going to make a difference. But what Don Lemon doesn't understand is that you can have one man competing against women and he's going to win the entire competition, as we just saw back in June. Right? You have a male competing against women, and guess what? He wins the events he's entered in. And we see this over and over and over again. So even one or two people in a state can win the entire state championship, can win the entire national championship, right? And we've seen this repeated over and over and over again in biking, in running, in swimming. You pick the sport and we've got it, including billiards of all things. And not to mention, of course, boxing, as Piers Morgan brought up. And yes, Don Lemon, he doesn't really care, right? It's not something he follows. So he doesn't care that a man literally beat the crap out of women in order to win gold. And another man beat the crap out of women in order to win silver. All right. This was peak wokeness on display for everyone to see in the Olympics around the entire world. But Don Lemon, he doesn't care about it whatsoever, simply because if you go into boxing, you're expecting to get hit hard. And while he's true on one instance, you're not expecting to get hard by a person who is way above your class. It's like asking a featherweight to compete against a heavyweight. When you have a man fighting against a woman, that's exactly the end result we're going to get. But Don Lemon, he doesn't care about it because he's still a good little leftist who's happy to toe the party line because he knows who's paying his bills now. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.